Isn't it crazy that they've set off nukes in our own place?
Yeah, and then they moved it out to the Pacific because it got
we'll just
too
go blow an
dangerous.
island up real fast or something. That's like crazy.
You can pull all this up on Google Maps. You go browse around, you'll see little craters. The Department of Energy has a tour of the Nevada test site.
Oh, wow.
They take you to another giant crater where it was Project Plowshare.
Okay.
They were trying to learn how to dig reservoirs with nuclear weapons. Say if you want to dig Lake Wright-Patman.
Oh, yeah.
They just put a nuke underground and dig a big hole. And so they drive.
That sounds like an awful idea. Hey, what's going on? It's another episode of the Joe Teel podcast. And like always, I have another great guest, Tim Eason. What's going on, man?
Yep, not a whole lot. Just hanging out. We already talked for like 20, 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's the problem. I have problems starting these things because I'll get into a good conversation. I'm like, the whole time in my head, I'm like, we need to be recording. We need to be recording.
Yep.
But no, I'm excited. Today, we're going to talk about space. We're going to talk about life and
the blue bowling alley.
The blue bowling alley. We're going to get there. So tell me a little bit about yourself first.
Well, I'm Tim, of course. I have a little hot shot company locally. That's how you make your money. You got to make money.
Right.
But I've been doing amateur astronomy for like 20, 30 years. President of the local astronomy club. And I've done some movies and television, stuff like that, but a lot of that stuff's not very profitable. A couple roles here and there don't pay the bills, But I'm really serious about astronomy and space. That's why I've been studying it my whole life since I was a little kid.
How did you get into it? What was it? Did you just know when you were little, or did something happen?
I would say I was around I pretty remember it. I was around 8 years old, and I found the star chart. So I said I'm gonna go outside and try to figure out what. And I remember looking at Regulus, it's a star, just a little star. I remember that was the first star identified. And I was like, that's kind of weird. I bought a telescope when I was 10 years old. Telescope piece of junk, And, over the years, I just, would do most of it. Wasn't looking up in the sky because I lived near Bowie Courts and Robinson Courts and moved to Texarkana. It was called Park Terrace. It was kind of nice back in the day. It's Texarkana Mobile Home Center now. So you didn't really have good sky, so you couldn't see a whole lot. So most of it was just, watching movies and, documentaries and, go borrowing somebody's cable.
Yeah. You like sci-fi?
Oh,
is it?
Yeah. I mean, we watched Doctor Who, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, me and my wife do.
I'm big on the Star Wars and the Star Trek. That's my
Star Wars. Yep.
I like both of those.
Well, I was talking about the movie thing when we did NCS New Orleans. When I went to New Orleans and did I was rescued by the what's his name, Scott Bakula.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was I totally forgot he was a starship captain. And when we was walking in, I was a nobody background, extra, whatever. But a lot of those guys in New Orleans were really nice. We was walking through the mud at a plantation that he rescued us from because we was in a cult.
Oh, dang.
Yeah. And I was just walking through the mud. Next thing you know, Scott Bakula was next to me. He just started talking about something because what it was, he didn't want me to splash mud on him. He was being really nice, though.
Yeah.
And we got into a little bit of discussion about Star Trek for a second because we had a long ways to walk.
I love Star Trek, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm watching, which one am I finishing right now? I'm trying to watch the newer ones now because I've seen all the old ones, and I'm trying to
Discovery.
Discovery and Strange New World. Strange New World is a lot better than Discovery. But anyways, it's crazy but I don't want to get into that right now. Let's stay on you and what we're doing. Maybe we'll talk about Star Trek or something later. But so in school, did you take extra classes or something to be, or it was just casual, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty casual. I mean, because when you're in public school, there's not a whole lot of extra options.
Right?
Pretty much take science. I was an A student. Yeah. But a C in conduct,
Yeah, I swear.
Straight up, And so that's why I got away with a lot more than most people because they're like, well, he has good grades.
Good grades, yeah.
And you can ask my wife, I wouldn't even come to class. Wouldn't show up.
Yeah. But I didn't have A's, so they just failed me.
Exactly. But my teacher, she would, I remember a science teacher, she would say, I can use your paper as a key. And she would do that sometimes. Yeah. I would just show up at the end of class because I would do a lot of I would stay in the library a lot. I really would. Yeah. At the Liberty High School, I would just stay, and they wouldn't let a kid do this nowadays. That would be, I would just sit in the library, and just.
So you went to Liberty Island also?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, that's
I went to, early on, I went to 15th Street, TISD. But then we moved to Liberty Island, like, I don't remember, teenager at some point.
Yeah, I graduated from Liberty Island.
Yeah.
In 13. Yeah.
My wife was like valedictorian and I was like way down the line.
Yeah.
Because they count conduct towards your points.
Oh, yeah.
Graduation points. Yeah.
I remember looking at the list once I was in 10th. I failed 10th grade, but I was looking at the list and there was like 175 and I was like 173.
Nice.
And I was, because I spent most of like 9th and 10th grade as an AP most of the time. And I was just in trouble. But I actually graduated, I failed 9th and 10th grade. And graduated with the people I grew up with.
Yeah, they usually
I did 9th and 10th grade my 11th grade year, and 11th and 12th grade my senior year.
Yeah, they got programs. They fast forward you.
Yeah, so that was cool. I didn't get into like learning until like I was like 26 or 27.
Yeah.
There was a long time where I was just chilling. Like as an adult, I was like, we go to work, we go have fun, we do this, and then one day I was like, you know what? I probably should know some stuff.
Yeah.
And then learning as an adult has been so much more fun than it was at school.
Knowledge is powerful. Knowledge is better than money. It really genuinely is.
It's changed my life for sure. And so now I'm doing this and I just like having somebody that likes space. Like I listen to tons of, astrophysicists and like just seeing them on podcasts. Like Star Talk. I listen to Star Talk every week, which is Neil deGrasse Tyson. Yeah. I don't know, man. So you were able to maintain like a want to learn like all the way through high school. What about right out as you got out of high school, were you still like into learning? Where'd you go to college? Did you go to college?
I went, I needed money just straight up. So I mean, broke as a joke. And I was looking at like careers, like how much things pay. And like, being a doctor's fine, but that was impossible. I couldn't afford to go somewhere like medical school or anything like that. So I just needed a career where I would start making money. So I became a mechanic, believe it or not.
Yeah.
I went to just a technical college, but I got a real degree at that technical college. I did all the algebra, calculus. I did way more math and way more science than I needed for my degree. I really did. It was kind of ridiculous. Yeah. And part of that, I met some real scientists because the little school I went to in Waco called Texas State Technical College, our student ID gave us access to Baylor.
Oh, wow.
So I would go to Baylor's library. I mean, that's a $60,000 a year school versus a $600 a year school. And Baylor's library is 24/7. So I'd go and I started meeting little guys, whenever you're doing things, people notice sometimes.
Yeah. Like if you're just hanging out in the library, you're going to attract people that.
Well, one thing, my roommates, we had a pirate TV station.
TV station?
Yeah, we was doing slow scan TV from my apartment. And I did this literally the first night I moved into the college apartments, I queued it up because I already started it before. I was already doing it here at the trailer park. I really was. But that got the attention of some of the ham radio operators, and they knew and some of them were professors. And so they got me, and I would go, like, I was a freshman, and I would go hang out with the professors at lunchtime.
Ah, cool. Yeah.
So, and they got me into some really deep projects, like fusion. They had a fusion reactor there on campus, and so I started learning like nuclear technology. Like, I wasn't part of the project, but I helped build the structure because being an auto mechanic, that was my expertise. So I knew how to. I knew torque settings and
you just build fusion reactors just for fun,
Yeah, it wasn't for fun. The project, you can look it up. It was called Project Casper, is what they called it.
Project Casper, yeah.
Yeah, you can Google it. Like I can throw some links on the comments.
Yeah, do that for me. Yeah. Project Casper, that's cool. I want to look into that.
Yeah, it was a fusion reactor there on the campus. They didn't put it on Baylor because Baylor's a nice school. They can't have things like that, so they put it at Texas State Technical College because it used to be an Air Force base, and so they had a lot of extra buildings, and so they put the reactor over there just in case something happened. Let the poor kids get There'll
be the fallout, huh?
Yeah, exactly. It's all good though.
Yeah, you made it. That's good. So that's cool. So yeah, you was hanging out. working on fusion reactors?
Not really. We didn't. I didn't really. Like I said, I just helped build the structure. Yeah. And I knew it was there, and most people didn't even know it was there.
Wow.
Yeah, because it wasn't that big of a project. Now they didn't want to talk about it a whole lot. They didn't want people to know it was in that building.
Yeah. I guess what I'm getting at is that you just have been on like, let's learn something like from the beginning.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and what I was telling you earlier about, how you get access to things like that, and your knowledge is better than money a lot of times.
Right.
Like if you want to do something, a lot of times if you send somebody an email nowadays, like back then you'd have to meet them in person, because email was pretty rare in the 90s. It existed, but if you send somebody an email, you'd be surprised who will respond back to you.
And what was that? What was the one you're Barksdale? The one you were talking about?
The Global Power Museum.
Global Power Museum. That sounds crazy.
Yeah, it's a little museum on Barksdale Air Force Base that has, because Barksdale is like the fast response, nuclear, they keep some B-52s parked at the end of the runway. 10 minutes, they can be up in the air and go nuke somebody. I hope it never happens.
I hope that doesn't happen.
I would hope it never happens. But they have a museum with the old bombers. They have an SR-71 there, the Blackbird, and that's still like one of the fastest known aircraft, but there's better than that nowadays.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That's the stuff they won't tell us
about. That's 1950s technology.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way. Like some of these things, like there's no way. Like we have better stuff than what they're showing us. I truly believe that.
It's always fun at those museums. Because they have I call them honeypots. They're not really honeypots, but like say if you're looking at that SR-71, you'll see a skunk on the tail. You're like, most people wouldn't even ever pay attention to that skunk. That's Skunk Works from Lockheed.
Lockheed Martin, yeah.
Yeah, that's where they used to develop a lot of the secret aircraft. They got better. They got different. They moved on from that since then. Yeah. But
there's no way that we're still using some of the stuff that because there's like DARPA and Lockheed Martin and some of these other deals. Like there's no way. Like we have stuff that they don't tell us about.
Well, I mean, and they tell you about some of them, like the X-37B. Yeah. They released some pictures of it the other day, and you can go online and look at the orbital elements of it. And you can watch it. It's kind of far out right now. You can't really watch it. But you know how you'll see like the International Space Station, fly over.
Yeah, but you can see it with a telescope, right?
Yeah, you can actually see the shape of that. That's why, when somebody gets in a discussion, like, how do you know that's the space station? Well, you can literally point your telescope at it. And if you follow it good enough by hand, you'll see the shape. And
that's a big part of what I want to do, what I want to talk about today is the just talk about some of these wild things that are popping up on the internet that, I mean, you can kind of just go take a telescope and be like, hey, no.
Yep.
So I would definitely do want to get into that today. Yeah. But the space station is a good example of that. And the space station is in low Earth orbit. It's like 22,000, something like that, 20,000 miles up?
It's not that high.
It's not that high?
No, I really want to say it's like 100 and some change.
Really? Okay, so it's not that high. Let's ask that.
Yeah.
My good friend, the GPT, how high is the space station? This is where I need a Jamie.
Yeah.
The International Space Station. I don't know what I was doing with the 20. No, that's how fast it goes.
How high was it? Yeah, 22,000.
Okay, that's okay, that's where I got the number from. Sorry.
So how high was it?
260 miles.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Which is way up there.
Yeah. But you still have line of sight with it. And people say, well, how you know it's a space station? How you know it's not fake? Go back to the amateur radio thing. You can have an antenna set up. Right. And when the space station comes above the horizon, you start hearing the radio communications.
Wow.
And they'll actually, sometimes they'll set up hours where you can talk back and forth with them.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And that's still, you could fake that too, which technically you could. But then you got somebody like Buzz Aldrin that will knock somebody out when they tell him he didn't go to the moon. That was a good one. But anyway, if you ever meet an astronaut, they're serious people. Yeah. They're real athletic. They're really smart. They're like the best of the best. Nowadays they have other ones, but I mean, they really are the early astronauts. Apollo astronauts were the best of the best. They were no joke.
So here's the moon landing, right? We can get into that if you want right now.
Yeah,
the things I hear about the moon landing, there's people talk about the Van Allen radiation belt, like that they wouldn't have been able to go through it. Yeah. What do you think about that?
It's not. Yes, it's radiation, but it's not as bad as what you think.
Yeah,
like we have radiation, right? Like your phone's radiating,
right? Yeah.
And like the Apollo crafts had gold foil on, one research paper showed that literally a magnet the size of like a dime at the tip of a spacecraft would almost block all the radiation from that particular kind of radiation, would like make it go around the craft. You hear about the Earth being protected by our magnetic field.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, now, the Apollo astronauts were exposed to more radiation. Once you leave Earth's atmosphere, you are exposed to more solar particles, cosmic rays, but the gold foil, the layers in the spacecraft, it protects it pretty good. Like, yes, it's a radiation belt, but it's not that bad.
It's not like cooking them.
Yeah, it's like detectable. Like your smoke detector in your house has a little piece of a mercurium like in it, a little radioactive element, and you can pick it up on a Geiger counter.
Right.
But you're far enough away from it, it doesn't matter. You'll get a few gamma rays or beta beta particles go through you every now and then, but it really doesn't affect you that much.
Yeah, there's people that's like dedicated to their life to the moon landing being fake. Like, and then there's the people that say like, well, why was the flag moving, or like the directions of the lights, or didn't they get caught faking one of the shots out the window?
I'm not sure about that, but like the flag thing, they had a pole, like you got a flag pole. They put a pole like this too and pulled the flag across. That's why the flag stood out.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's faded now. And I'll just tell you my number one argument for the moon landing.
Yeah.
The number one argument when people, because I get this, when they look at the moon through a telescope or something, and they say, well, how you know? When the Chinese went to the Russians first, when the Russians, imaged the moon and landed on the moon, they had rovers. They didn't put a person. And when the Chinese did lunar surveys, like real high detail, the first thing they did was verify the Apollo sites.
Okay, make sure that there was a flag there. Make sure,
People don't realize how much Russia hated us back then. It wasn't necessarily hate, but it was a competition.
Right, yeah. The
Russia
Cold War
verified it.
Yeah.
Russia gave the gold stamp. That was real because communications were real simple back then. They were mostly analog. And so you had to have antennas around the world, like an antenna here, antenna there, so you could relay have constant communication. But anyways, go back. You can go online right now, Google like Apollo sites and images, and you'll see that, an Indian Pakistani, moon surveyor has little images of the site. You'll see a dot and you'll see a little shadow. It looks like a lunar lander.
Yeah.
And every country, literally, the first thing they do is verify the Apollo sites. Because
did we leave stuff on the moon, like part of the craft there?
Yeah, you see the Apollo lander, the top part took off and the bottom part stayed. It was just a little, chemical rocket. It doesn't take much to get off the moon.
Yeah, and then Earth, what brings you back with, it's pulling you in, huh?
Yeah,
and then
pretty much. It's like the gravity well thing I was talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, that was before, but basically just got to get off the moon, and that's why they do a couple slingshot maneuvers. It's kind of like if you've seen the little penny thing, like you go somewhere, you see this little thing, you put a penny in,
and it spins. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And it gets faster and faster.
Yeah,
and you can slingshot it, real slingshot maneuvers. You just go.
Oh, you got to do the Talladega Nights.
Yeah,
slingshot engage.
Then on one of the slingshots, you just give a little, like if that penny had a little thruster on it, a slingshot, and then a little thrust at one point, and the penny would escape the well fast.
Yeah.
Like it was, all it needs is a little bit of thrust at that point because it has the momentum, so it can escape that well. And that's why they don't have to burn a whole lot of, if that penny wanted to roll out just sideways, it would need a lot more thrust than while it was already moving.
Right, okay, yeah. So let's say if they were to fake the moon landing, that's the biggest fake ever, right?
Yeah. There's a movie about it somewhere, and they're like, I forget the name, but dude, it would take thousands and thousands of people involved.
Everybody would have
they would take it to their grave, and it would be.
There's a guy that goes on Rogan, and his whole life mission, like he has the movie that the moon landing's fake, and then he goes on and he talks for 3 hours about why he thinks the moon landing's fake and things like that. But it's like, so many people would have to be in coordination. Even people that don't like us would have to be like in on the lie.
Yeah.
That's like when I think about like the flat earth, round earth stuff, like it seems like if the world was flat, right, this would be, a humongous like global lie that would have to be maintained.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem necessary. It doesn't, not necessary. It doesn't seem, it really almost doesn't seem possible.
Another link I need to add, I remembered the Everyday Astronaut came up with that. He did a 2.5 hour video just last week because he almost had a mental breakdown over the moon landing because like you
keep sending him stuff in,
keep telling him, and so he did a really serious 10-month research, got really technical about it.
I would love to see his video.
And he hit some dead ends, and he started questioning it.
Oh yeah,
like he really did, and that's why he went silent for a while. I remember he quit posting for a while, and that's why he was having
a check on that man.
He was having some problems. He made a really nice 2.5 hour video, and that's why I told the guy, if you really want to prove the moon landing and space is real, you got to get deeply technical, and you need to talk to somebody with some knowledge.
Yeah,
because it's not simple. It's really not. It's a complicated issue.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't necessarily think it's fake. I just have heard a lot of a lot of people talking about it.
Yeah.
And so I'm always open to hear more about it. I like me being Joe Schmo, like literally Joe Schmo. I can't just be like the moon landing was fake. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I don't have the knowledge either way to just be like, it was this or it was that. So I'm like always just trying to ask questions and learn more about it.
It's a hard thing to do. I mean, you saw Starliner burn up. The booster went up and was fine, but Starliner burned up. And we lost Apollo astronauts. Like Apollo 1 burnt up on the launch pad. Like they were burned alive in the capsule on the launch pad just from a spark from a relay in a pure oxygen atmosphere. They learned, okay, let's not have pure oxygen anymore in the capsule,
When it comes to the lie, like that's what it comes down to. And that's what when you start talking to a lot of people, that's what they kind of get to. The government's lying to us. And then you get that a lot talking to people when they start getting into like the space conspiracies. And it's like all those jobs where a guy just like works on a rocket. Okay, well then he's just BSing then, right? Apparently. All these people that are doing this, all these people look at their telescopes. Everybody is lying. That gets harder to believe than you just decided that there was a firmament.
It's a lot like the COVID thing. A lot of people thought COVID wasn't real because, I hate to bring it up, because they didn't see anybody die of it.
Right.
And a lot of it, like around here, we don't see anybody working with moon. And believe it or not, there's some machine shops around here that ship stuff to SpaceX.
Really? That would make sense.
That's how SpaceX works cheaper, is they use little tiny machine shops, whereas NASA and the military, they use, their own little proprietary contractors.
Big contract with somebody.
Lockheed Martin, Raytheon, GE, whereas, SpaceX will use,
somebody down the road. I mean, that's not a bad idea.
And that's what they do. And then they'll
Elon's an interesting character because he's been able to do some of this wild stuff. Catching the rocket come back was crazy.
Yeah. As I said, the booster landed. The booster landed.
It's absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And there's people out there that feel like that these things are just blowing up in space. You know how when they separate, that's somebody's whole belief right there, is that the other part isn't going to space.
And SpaceX is extremely accessible. Remember I was talking about sending somebody an email and asking them, hey, can I come look around?
I would love to go to SpaceX. I need to send them an email.
You don't have to send them an email. You can drive down to Boca Chica. It's right on the tip of Texas, like near Brownsville.
Yeah.
And you can see the beach is right there. Like, you've been to like Galveston or somewhere. Right. You see the beach, and it's real similar little area. And the rockets are like right on the beach. I'm talking about like 50 yards from the beach. And it's public property, the beach is.
Wow. Now,
and SpaceX has their little delineators. They have security and stuff, but you can get surprisingly close to the rockets. I'm talking about like 2 city blocks, and it's like right there. Like when I first went, they look like water towers.
Yeah.
They look like little water, and that's what they were building, was like little water towers. And they would hop from one pad to the other, testing the Raptor engines or whatever.
Wow.
And you can just drive down there and see all that.
That would be fun.
And if you send somebody an email, they're really open. If they have time and certain times, whatever, they'll give you a little quick tour or something, And a lot of time it'll just be like just some contractor, because the rockets are built by just regular guys.
Yeah.
Like they're not built by like big, giant, smart brain dudes. They're just like sheet metal workers.
Yeah. So it's designed by somebody like a genius, but it's like put together by regular
just
folks.
regular people. Yeah. And that's why they look a little rough. They don't look perfect. And that's probably why Starliner keeps, exploding too.
Yeah.
But they're getting better. They're working out all the problems. And the reason they need them built by normal, regular working people is because they need it repetitive.
Yeah, so you just redo it. Yeah.
And do it over and over and over. Because to get to Mars, they're not going to be able to send 1 or 2 rockets. They're going to have to send like 60,
I was looking into the Mars stuff. There's people out there, but anytime you talk about space, any aspect of space, there's somebody out there that thinks it's not real. But like in the Mars stuff, there's people that think like the Mars rovers are faking all that and stuff like that. But they've really thought about the science of it, like the way they leave at the equator and they leave at a certain time to where we kind of get launched off to head towards Mars the right way.
Do a couple slingshots around Earth and
it's like all that is fake. If according to it seems like the easier thing to believe is that it's just out there.
Well, like again, the Russians are real cooperative. They're on the ISS with us right now. I think they did a change of command last night. There's a Russian commander of the ISS now. The Russians have landed on Mars. The Russians landed on Venus.
Venus, really?
Yeah, it didn't last long. This was like years ago, like the early 60s, but it only lasted like 7 minutes or something.
I was looking something about Venus. I was looking up that I was trying to figure out the different ways they use to figure out how far the sun is away. Because there's people out there that feel like the sun isn't far away. See, that's the problem. Like,
it's parallax.
And so they shoot. They were shooting like a laser into Venus as it crossed the sun or something. And I'm like, this is crazy stuff that we're doing. And that wasn't even like recent. Yeah. This was a long time ago.
That's he's talking about asking what, a few minutes ago, what the Apollo missions left behind. Right. They left human waste for one, but that's another thing. Because you want your space.
Somebody like me up there.
Well,
I'll be a space pumper.
When that little spacecraft takes off, you unload all the useless items, and that's out, your food wrappers, all that stuff. You just leave the bag of trash there.
Damn, we're littering on the moon. That's crazy.
Measuring the distance, they left a reflector on the moon.
Oh, okay, so we just shoot like a laser off the room.
Yeah, that's what they do. They would shoot and time the light. Believe it or not, light takes like 2 seconds to get from the moon to Earth.
The speed of light is...
The sun, like when you go outside and look at the sun, those photons are like 7 minutes old.
Yeah. I was reading, it's like, what happens if the sun blew up? And they were like, well, for like 7 minutes, it'd be okay. Then it wouldn't.
Well, you would see it, and then it would get bright.
How long do you think it would take if the sun blew up right now for it to start getting colder?
Well, it would get a lot hotter. We'd be gone before it got colder. Like the Earth.
Oh, the explosion. Oh, yeah.
The explosion, all the particles, it would evaporate the atmosphere. And whatever side of Earth was facing that way would be just total scorched. Yeah, and the other side would be pretty done too, because our atmosphere would be gone. And we'd all be dead. And
because we can't. Yeah, then it would get cold. Right.
It'd be a rock like the moon,
Let's talk. I think I saw the moon stuff. I think we did it. I think that's too much. I think there's too much.
I'll post that link to that everyday astronaut. And if somebody's really serious questioning and they keep an open mind about it, like I said, I kind of have the I want to believe, like the poster. I want to believe. I want to believe. I would love to believe the moon landing was fake.
Yeah, because that's like it's almost like cooler. Exactly. Right now, it's cooler to think that. Yeah, like if you say it's almost like a weird position at this moment.
It makes you look rebellious.
Yeah,
and,
Yeah, and they're like, oh, I don't even think they landed on the moon. But it's like
the other argument when I got into a serious discussion with somebody downtown though, he was a good old boy type. Like we all are. We all have nice Southern twang. I said, so you don't believe that some rednecks from Alabama and Mississippi could make a moon rocket? Okay, that's the end of it. Rednecks couldn't do it.
They couldn't do it, yeah.
I said, you believe they can't do it? Because that's literally who built the Apollo rockets.
Right, yeah.
Well, that. And like we was talking about, we brought Germans over after World War II, Germans.
Yeah, the paperclip.
Yeah, Operation
Paperclip, yeah.
I try not to get into that every time I discuss somebody because
Dude, people not like the regular people. I listen to so much. So let's talk about Paperclip for a second. That's where we brought people from World War II.
Yeah.
Basically, we took their scientists and then we turned around and used those same scientists to build like Apollo. Yeah.
And Russia did it. That's how Russia got their space program too. The Nazi Germany was way ahead.
Oh, dude, they was on some stuff. Hitler had some,
And they buried just recently they discovered they probably had a nuclear device and they buried it because they didn't want the Allies to find it.
Yeah.
they knew about, they had a fission bomb, basically,
So here's how I am on like conspiracies. I like to hear them, right?
Yeah.
I like to get into them, but there's some people, when they hear a conspiracy, they have like, I guess like almost like a rebellious conspiratorial side to them. And it can kind of like get into their being, right?
Yeah.
They kind of become
I've been that person.
Yeah,
really
me too, for sure. But then I've started to try to go back the other way to where it's like, I like to hear the stuff, but I don't like to just be like, oh yeah, they probably did fake that. Like I want to see like, okay, how did they fake it?
A lot of it's too complicated. Like, all right, we can't, us as individuals, you can't fathom how complicated Apollo was, how complicated the Manhattan Project was. Like those are, like we talking about, it was tens of thousands of people.
Yeah.
We brought 10,000 Nazis over for Apollo.
That's absolutely crazy.
I used to think we brought 7 over. No, we brought 1,000 and then 1,000 real solid scientists. And then those 1,000 brought their family. And so it was about 10,000 total. And they were a lot of really smart people, Yeah. And
good old German engineering.
Yeah. and you can see it. You can go to Alabama, Mississippi, and you can see that's where the Mercedes plant is. There's a reason for that is because it's, they have a good, nice influence around that area. And it's a really nice area. Northern Alabama is really beautiful. It really is. It's, you hear bad stuff about Alabama, Mississippi, but Northern Alabama is really nice. And it's also Southern Tennessee where Oakridge Labs are. Oakridge Laboratories are where the Manhattan Project. Oh, wow. Well, that's not necessarily.
Refresh me on the Manhattan Project. Refresh me. What is that? I've heard it a million times, but
the Manhattan Project was where they came up with the Hiroshima bomb.
Okay, yeah.
Most of that was done in New Mexico.
Yeah, that's where we built the bombs. Okay, yeah, Manhattan.
That was in New Mexico.
Yeah,
but Oakridge Labs is where later on they moved most of the work to, and it was they call it Secret City, USA. Because it looks like Red River Army Depot. Like you drive into Oakridge, you see a gate there. It's an old gate, but it used to be a town that didn't exist.
Oh, like it was off the books.
It was off the books. It wasn't on a map.
Cool.
Like if you drove through there, there'd just be some guys, they asked you for your ID, and if you didn't belong there, tell you to turn around, and you wouldn't know what was on the other side. But it was a whole city. It was a really beautiful city. It had schools. What it was, they kept the families. The families lived there. Their kids lived there. So that way they couldn't talk to people outside.
They probably all had security clearances and couldn't, NDAs and all that. Yeah.
It's a nice museum, nice little area to walk around now. It's called Secret City, USA, and it was...
Secret City, that's cool.
And that's why, I'll just fast forward to the Blue Bowling Alley.
Yeah, tell me about that.
That's Mercury, Nevada. Mercury, Nevada is, most people know it as the Nevada test site. That's where they exploded hundreds of nuclear weapons. And right there, you hear about Area 51.
Right.
And so there must be an Area 50, right? Well, there must be an Area 1, 2, 3, and there really is. If you look at the map.
So there's areas between 1 and 51.
Yep. And
that makes sense. Why would you just name something 51?
Exactly. Most people don't think of that. They think, Area 51. That's it. Nope. There's Area 50, 51.
I thought they might have a reason, like the 51 may have meant something, but I don't know. No, I mean, I've never looked that up. I think that's what.
What is it?
The reason is that there was 50 before.
If you look at a map of Nevada, you see a big empty spot in the middle. And if you look at, and you can pull it up, it's all open information. You can pull up a map of the Nevada test site, and you'll start seeing they got it sectioned off to like Area 1, 2, whatever, 20, whatever, 30. And what it is, like, say if you're a military contractor that's working on a project, that doesn't need to, or it needs to be done far enough away from people because it's dangerous. You rent an area. I prefer the Nevada test site is like a mall for military contractors.
Really?
Yeah, it's ran by the Department of Energy.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy that they've set off nukes in our own place?
Yeah, and then they moved it out to the Pacific because it got too dangerous.
Blow an island up real fast or something. That's like crazy.
You can pull all this up on Google Maps. You go browse around, you'll see little craters. But what I was talking about, how you can get access to places if you just send somebody an email. Yeah. If you send somebody a nice email, but I'll put a link to this later too. The Department of Energy has a tour of the Nevada test site.
Oh, wow.
You can't just drive up there because there's some really deadly serious dudes. They're a lot of them are former Marines, but these guys are deadly serious. They used to use black water.
Oh, well, yeah.
And there's no fence. There's no gate. There's red stakes in the ground. And those stakes aren't painted red.
For no reason.
For no reason. These guys will stop you, and if you don't stop, they will shoot you.
Oh, wow.
So you're not, and that's what you hear about people watching Area 51. You hear about the black mailbox. There's a mailbox there. You keep going down that road. They call it Backgate Road or whatever, and it takes you to Area 51 to Groom Lake. But anyways, if you go to the Department of Energy, they call it the National Security Site now, and you go to National Security Site tours.
Wow, and go look at it. Yeah.
Well, if you don't have, and what you do is you fill out the information, they clear you, and then they only have it's only a few tours a year. They paused them during COVID for obvious reason,
Yeah.
But once you get cleared, they give you an instruction sheet, and the instruction sheet is basically you show up at the Atomic Testing Museum in Las Vegas at 7 a.m. and you bring nothing. You can't bring a pen, a pencil, a sheet of paper. Maps are huge. They don't want you to bring a map.
Yeah, you don't need to know where you are.
You don't bring anything. And they pick you up at 7 a.m. They take you, they're going to bring you back about 4 p.m. It's about a 7-hour, 8-hour tour or something. And you bring a sack lunch. That's the only thing you bring is a sack lunch, a bottle of water, and a sandwich.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so they take you to the test site, and those dead serious Marines or Blackwater contract, they use somebody else now.
Just probably military contractors now, yeah.
They come on the bus, they give you the, just quick, once over, pat you down, they Geiger counter you too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because, seriously, well, there's a reason they Geiger counter you is because they also Geiger counter you on the way back.
Oh, to see if you
might have got contaminated, yeah.
Woo.
Yeah.
Imagine picking up some extra radiation while you're out there.
I'll just fast forward it through because, it's talking about the Mandela effect. But anyway, they take you around for 7 hours. They show you, like when you see an atomic bomb explosion, the famous video of the paint coming off the house and the house blowing. Yeah. That's the Apple House. They take you to that house. They drive the bus around there. You might get out and walk or something. They take you to another giant crater where it was Project Plowshare, where they Plowshare. Okay. They were trying to learn how to dig reservoirs with nuclear weapons. Say if you want to dig Lake Wright-Patman. Oh, yeah. They just put a nuke underground and dig a big hole. And so they drive.
That sounds like an awful idea.
Exactly.
That sounds terrible.
This is 1950s. So they drive the bus down what they call Sedan Crater. And it was a reservoir they dug with a nuclear weapon. So they drive the bus down into the bottom of the crater. You get down there, look around why are we down here? Yeah. And people that work at the test site will get married at a little overlook on the crater because it's a real beautiful area. Of course, you can't take photos.
Yeah.
But so you have a beautiful wedding with no photos.
No, and you see it, yeah. Hey, if you're enjoying this podcast and you're watching on YouTube, if you could take just a few seconds to go hit that subscribe button, it really does help. That'll help notify you when we drop new videos. And we need all the subscribers we can get so we can keep bringing you content every week. Now back to the show.
But where he brought up the Mandela effect the other day online, and that's what reminded me of the whole tour thing was they took you to a bowling alley to eat your lunch. Okay, you're at area whatever 22. Say you're Area 51, and there's a bowling alley. Okay, why is there a bowling alley here? It's because the tour guide said, well, it's because back to the secret city thing. The people that lived and worked here, they couldn't talk to anybody else. You couldn't go party at a bar in Las Vegas or Pahrump, Nevada.
Well, you just had to go bowling.
You went to the bar at the bowling alley. Yeah. And then his joke was, if the Russians ever wanted to kill every nuclear scientist in the U.S. in the 50s, all they would have had to do is bomb this one building and they'd all been gone. Wow. On a Friday or Saturday night. Because they were all in there having fun, hanging out with each other, talking shop, Yeah. You can't be at a bar here in town saying, "Oh yeah, buddy," and you start talking about top secret stuff. But you can do it in that bowling alley, because everybody's cleared.
Lord, so they could talk. They could, yeah.
And that
everybody else is cleared, yeah.
Yeah, and that blue bowling alley was on Google Maps for years. You could zoom.
So is it gone? What's the Mandela effect about it? It's
they erased it.
There's no
I told my wife
so you saw it?
Yeah, I saw it. We was in there.
And now you can't. Now
there's no evidence of it anymore. It used to be online, it was all there.
And do they say it's not real now?
It's just gone. It was marked on the map. It was there was a few references to it here and there, but and they might have realized how serious it was, because the people that hang out at that bowling alley. They might have wanted to just erase it. And that's
Yeah.
You know, I wouldn't have remembered it if I wouldn't have told my wife about it. And, you know, I told a few other people about it. But how the Mandela, I mean, you know, basically there's no evidence of it online anymore. It's all proof gone, like it never was there. But I found evidence of it a while back.
Yeah.
So I started looking up other test sites, like, because we moved from the Nevada test site, we moved out to the Pacific Ocean and started blowing it up out there because we want to mess up our own country, you know. And so if you go to Midway Island.
Midway, you have the Battle of Midway?
Yep. That's what got me looking. I was like, okay, I'm just going to look at where the Battle of Midway was. I was scrolling and I said, holy shit, there's the bowling alley. It's because they used Midway Island as an area to
they moved to bowling.
they had they were started. That was basically
it was blue.
Yeah, you can go on Google Maps and there's a tour walking through it. You know, there's nobody lives on Midway Island anymore. It's just what they call little birds called albatrosses. There's like thousands of them.
Yeah,
there's no reason to be on Midway Island. Like it's out in the middle of bumfuck. It's like nowhere.
But there's a bowling alley.
And it's a spooky, you know, you hear liminal spaces.
Yeah.
Boy, it's creepy. Like you see this. See, that's what kind of got me too, was the bowling alley was kind of weird. So it kind of had a weird memory, weird vibe, you know? And when I saw that on Google Maps, I was like, it just came flooding back. I'll post a link to it later.
Yeah. We're going to have hella links in this one. That's cool though. That's so cool. The Mandela Effect is crazy because it's like, there are certain things that like I would fight somebody over that I remember that they're saying is not real.
The Berenstain.
The Berenstain, that's crazy. That's not what it was. And did Chick-fil-A ever have just a C? Chick-fil-A?
I swear it didn't, but hey.
One thing that gets me, they say there was no cornucopia.
Yeah, and the Fruit of the Loom.
Fruit of the Loom. Yep. That is crazy. Why did we all imagine this basket?
Dude,
there's no way.
I've seen like a neuroscientist one time. He showed me a test where he gave you a test. You click this, click that, click this, click that. And then it shows you something at the end. And did you see this? And you'll say yes. And no, you didn't.
Oh, wow.
They just implanted it. And sometimes things like that happen by accident. You know, you're just living your daily life and this and that. You see this and that.
But Fruit of the Loom got me through accident?
Your brain will just autocomplete, and all of our brains. Do you remember
it? Do you remember the cornucopia?
Yeah, almost on the whole list.
What do you think about the cornucopia? What do you think?
I believe it was there because I remember it solid as day. But there's a lot of you know, I'm mentally ill sometimes. So, but that little test, I wish I
freaked you out. Yeah,
I don't know how to find that link. I might try to look, but anybody can take that same test.
Yeah,
and it'll implant memories in your head.
Yeah, it's crazy, and it is also something to think about that they may have been doing that to us through TV, through movies. YouTube's probably doing it to us like crazy. Yep. It's probably even more unregulated than like a Cinemark movie.
A big thing going around. Oh, well, yeah. In the 50s, they were testing in cinemas.
And
testing, like injecting thoughts into people's head. And then it worked. You know, the LSD experiments in San Francisco, that was all
like
part of it.
MK Ultra, stuff like that. Yeah.
You can look at that. They really did do stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I've read the MK Ultra document.
Yeah,
It was 100%.
They use movies too.
Yeah,
they use movies to induce psychosis into people.
It's like advertisement now is basically, it's basically just like
they're good
implanting.
They really are
like
good.
Thoughts into you, basically.
But what brought something triggered in my head a minute ago. People online have been talking about the GATE program. I never really thought of it as GATE. Gifted and talented education. You remember in school, they would take these certain kids out and they would take them, to a little classroom. Me and you, we weren't in gifted and talented. But they would take the smart kids out of the class and they would take them to like another class. They would do these little projects. And then a lot of the gifted and talented kids are starting to talk about the things they did. And some kids don't have any memory of what they did.
Oh, they got Men in Black.
They did. Like, just look up GATE program. It's just been random. Like, it's nothing official. It's just random discussions online about kids that were in gifted and talented. Talking about, a lot of kids have zero memory of what they did. And I remember asking my wife before, like, what did y'all do in gifted and talented?
Oh, she was in there?
Yeah. She's smart. Like, she was school smart,
Yeah.
Yeah. And she don't really remember. Nobody really remembers. Or sometimes they'll say, sometimes they gave us a test. And there's these little cards they would show them with shapes.
Yeah.
That's online. That's you can look at that. They have those cards with shapes, and a lot of those gifted and talented. And these, it's like a plus sign, a triangle, and they would show you this. Does this shape make you feel any way? And they would write it down. And that was probably an MK Ultra similar program.
Test, yeah.
Yeah, and a lot of times the teacher wouldn't know what they were doing. They would just show the kid the triangle, and the kid would say, "Well, that makes me feel anxious," and so the teacher would write that down, and they would submit the data.
Have you seen the telepathy tapes? Heard about it? No, so it sounds crazy, but then like once you get into it, you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So it's non-speaking, autistic, non-verbal kids. They've learned a new thing called spelling, right? So they now that there's like technology, they're learning how to let these non-verbal people that, there's some disconnect between brain and mouth, right? And a lot of times their body as well. But now they can spell to like their spellers and stuff, and they can kind of spell out and say what they're thinking, and they're realizing, oh, like a lot of these people we thought were just kind of here, like now they've been here the whole time, they've been learning, but there's an even deeper layer to it. Like they're basically almost confirming, like you have to look into this. Yeah. And obviously there's people that think it's fake, but there's a lot of people that's like, oh my God, where like being able to communicate in a way that like telepathically almost, like to where that they can't speak with their mouth, but like, so like, let's say their parents can write like a letter down on the board, and they'll spell that letter out, and like they'll know. It's freaky. Like, and then they did like the telepathy tape that's blowing up right now. It's a podcast. It's about to be a documentary or whatever. Yeah. And obviously, anytime something like that happens, there's people that's like, hell no, there's no way. But like, it is very interesting to think that.
I mean, I don't discount anything like that, really, because and a lot of it can just be random coincidence. Like you had a connection with somebody at a distance, like when something happens. Sometimes it could just be, these variables kind of come together, and you kind of like your kid. When your kid is going through something just by the look on their face. Right, they don't have to actually say anything. Right. You can see like they wake up, they say they're feeling fine, but they might look different.
Yeah, you're like, that's
kind of telepathy. Yeah. But
I wonder if there is something deeper there, or even if they're like, because there's also other theories that like maybe even like the humans like way back before we had like the ability to like speak languages to each other, or just look at each other and be like, hey, time to make a fire. Like, it is time to make a fire, or go hunt, or, something like that.
Well, what we was talking about before we started, he was going through ancient civilizations, but we was talking about the mound things, a lot of them didn't have written languages, and they're not even sure, like they don't even know what their spoken languages were, but they built these mounds that had different shapes. They had a society. Some of them have drainage. Some of them had sewer systems, but there's no written language, and there's no record of their language. And when you see a human, like you can still communicate with people without like obvious language. And some people might see that as telepathy, but a lot of it's just you're a human,
and we know how to read each other. Yeah,
and they know the variables, and
I guess it depends on like we define telepathy by like what we've seen in like sci-fi shows and stuff like that, where it could just be something that we do already, and that. Imagine if it was like some type of part of the brain that had to be worked out like a muscle. Yeah. And since I can, I talk to people, let's say like someone like me, I'm using it less than most people, not shutting up. And it doesn't grow unless you're like actually not verbal.
Yeah. And it's not much magical to it. Like the CIA practiced remote viewing, and it wasn't as woo-woo as what people think. Like right now, I can imagine your house. You have cabinets. You have dishes in your cabinets. You probably have a cup with a little bit of liquid next to the sink, maybe on the left side. And I can get into details like this that are real obvious. And a lot of times, and if you look at the person talking to them, and what the government would use this for, they would say, okay, if you were an ambassador staying in a hotel room, where would you sleep? And so the person would say, well, I would sleep facing the door, and they would want to know stuff like that. So if they implanted a bug in the room, know where the person was. And a lot of time it's not magical. Yeah. You're just taking what you know and you're inferring it somewhere else. Like I know my house. I know how houses look.
Yeah, you could take that and assume somebody else is and you can get pretty similar.
And like you said, with the muscle, you can get really good at it. Yeah. Like that's how a lot of magicians work,
Oh man, I've had my mind blown.
Yeah.
Those mentalists, like we go on a cruise every year, and there's always a mentalist on the boat. And they just like doing something that's like at the end, they'll do their big deal. Like this last guy, the trick didn't work. And everybody was like, what? He's like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. I can't believe this doesn't happen very often. I guess I read it all wrong. And then he had a moment where he's like, no, I got you, bitch. And I was like, oh, no. He did have us, like, it's crazy. And
some of those guys also have people working in the audience.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
this guy came to our table. He was from India. And he, you know, they have lots of people from all over the world working on there. And we really started talking to this guy at dinner. And he would come and do a trick for us. And like, so we had him pull up a chair. We're like, no, just come hang out with us. Me and some boys, we're just getting drunk at dinner. We're like, so we start asking him questions like, how are you doing this, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, no, all serious. He's like, sometimes I am reading people's expressions and I know how to get you to think something and then I'll guess what you're thinking. He's like, but then sometimes I just know. That's scary. That's scary.
One of the things I like to do downtown is because sometimes I have money, but I don't want to spend it on drinking. So I'll do guess your job. Dude, I've gotten way too good at guessing people's jobs.
Oh, really?
I broke friend group. I ain't going to say it, but what I've started doing, I guessed somebody's military branch the other day. I'm almost starting to nail MOSs now. I'm starting to study that a little bit of what people did because people, and I told a guy the other day, you know.
What do you think I did? What do you think my MOS was?
All right. I don't know. Some reason I was seeing like motor pool or something. Like I was. I don't know.
I was 11 Bravo. I was an infantry.
Yeah, that's why I was seeing. I was seeing a vehicle.
Yeah. No, I was light infantry.
Yeah, that's why I was figuring Humvee. You know,
and I've been in a ton of Humvees.
But what I told a guy downtown the other day, his wife asked how I even knew he was in the military. And I said a word, and I wish I didn't say it because I saw how it struck him. I just said I saw sadness.
Oh,
dude, I saw sadness in this dude, you know. And
some people had it really rough.
And his wife just slapped him and said, "See." I was like, "Dang!" I was like, I just.
Some people had it a lot. Worse. Like me, I had I hurt myself at one point, which stopped me from going.
Yeah,
you know, and that's why I stayed
lucky.
here. Yeah, really got lucky. Especially as I got out, it's like I really respect the military, and I definitely respect the dudes that go out there and get shit done. But at the same time, it's like as I go down these rabbit holes, I start to like get sad more about like why these people are dying. Why they're going to kill somebody else or dying or, you know.
It's a lot of wars for billionaires.
I don't even really want to get into it today, but like
it's too serious.
Yes, the Iraqs and then those type deals.
You know,
that was rough, but yes.
Yeah, we was talking about what I do for a living. You know, like I have a little hot shot company, you know, and that was when I got into it was after 9/11.
Oh, I'm sure they needed.
The Humvee doors were the big thing. Oh, yeah. You know, remember that they sent all these Humvees to Iraq with canvas doors.
Oh, yeah, it's getting blunt.
Yeah. So then they started doing the up armored doors at Red River. And dude, they were sending so many of those doors out. Like, I mean, if you had a truck, an 18-wheeler, and you fill it up, I would drive them from, I mean, sometimes like 2 or 3 times a day from Texarkana to Dallas, stick them on a DHL flight. And the DHL flight, that pilot said their next stop was Iraq. And they would do the combat landing in a civilian cargo jet. Yeah.
Get the hell out of there.
I mean, and they got shot at before. The guy said they had one little missile hit their like wing, not wing, but hit the engine, you know, because it seeks the heat. They're still fine. They can still land. But I mean, imagine being on a regular civilian jet doing the combat.
And it's crazy. It's like the incentives behind that, and then people actually going over there, and like maybe we did do some good, but like maybe we did. But anyways, let's go back to space. Space is cooler than that. That's true.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Yeah, Space Force, real like we was talking about the X-37B. They released some photos the other day. You know, the X-37B, it looks like the space shuttle.
Give me the. I'll try to put it on the screen if I remember. But tell me that it's the
X-37B.
37B. I would like to look at that.
It looks like a small space shuttle, a little more triangular.
Oh yeah, it does. Yep. And it'll go into space.
Yeah, there's one up there right now. And
oh, cool.
Yeah, they released some photos from it the other day. But you used to be able to...
That's cool.
That's it,
Yeah, I need to put that on the screen. I need to mark this spot. But
And you used to be able to look up the orbital elements online, and you would see it pass every now and then.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
that's like saying Starlink. You can look like we'll be camping sometimes. I camp a lot, and you just be like,
well, that's cool. That thing's far enough away now that you can't see it. I forget how far away it is. And some of their missions are like highly classified, so they don't really post the orbital elements. But a lot of people that are really deep into astronomy, like myself, they know where the orbital elements are because you can literally see it. Like you take pictures, you see a little thing moving, and you look up what it is, and it's an unknown thing, and then. Yeah. They tell you, don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it.
Okay, we know what that is.
Did you get into like the drone stuff, like the New Jersey stuff and the drones? Did you have any thoughts on that? It's in the sky.
Like one guy said, he's like, there was an incident. There's these things called broken arrows. And when you look into broken arrows, it's a lost nuclear weapon or nuclear, just, the fuel to like a station or something. Mm-hmm. And early on in that drone, that New Jersey drone thing, there was a drone that had basically, simplified, just a Geiger counter. It was flying a pattern back and forth with this Geiger counter. And we've had a surprisingly large number of lost nuclear weapons or lost nuclir fuel. Like,
that sounds terrible.
There's a good one. I can post a link to this one too, to North Carolina. Please do. Either North or South Carolina. This bomber, some dudes, like yourself, are in the military. They loaded a bomber and they were just taking this weapon from one area to another. Well, a guy forgot to hook it. So they were just flying over North Carolina and the bomb just fell out of the plane.
Oh, no.
And it landed in a dude's backyard and exploded. But the non-fissile material exploded.
Okay, so it didn't like nuclear explode.
Because nuclear weapons have explosives on the outside that explode in, and it compresses the nuclear material, and it causes a fission.
Yeah.
Crazy. But just the bomb part went off, not the nuclear part, and it blew. And you can go there. You can go there, and there's a big crater back there in this dude's backyard.
That's so stressful.
The area's kind of closed off, and there's been a lot of those. We lost some in the Pacific Ocean.
Wasn't there a story where it was something about some submarines where they act like the world almost, like somebody accidentally almost shot some nukes where they was in a sub?
That was the Hunt for Red October was loosely based on that.
Okay, and
basically there was like
happened?
There's a whole bunch of stories along that line.
Okay,
where basically somebody received an early warning notice, like a nuclear sub got an early warning notice, and it turned out to be fake. And that captain decided not to react. If he would have reacted,
it's just like everything ends. Because to my understanding, right, like when they start shooting them, it's almost a wrap, right?
Yeah. And I'll go back to the drone thing, but there was probably one legitimate drone going back and forth looking. There might have been a suspicious, because believe it or not, like Alcoa here in town, some of their aluminum would come in radioactive. And so they started checking the aluminum going into Alcoa. Something like that might have happened in New Jersey, where a Geiger counter went off. Because after 9/11, they started checking all the containers at the ports, for dirty bombs you would hear. Mm-hmm. And there might have been something might have went off, so that drone was flying back and forth looking for a radioactive source. Mm. And so when that drone, people didn't understand what they were looking at. And so then other guys sent their drone up.
It's like, well, let's go check it out. So then now you got a drone epidemic.
So exactly. And that's kind of what happened. There was one drone started it, one legit drone that was looking for a radioactive source. Huh. And then other people brought their drones, and other people brought their drone. Now those guys got their drone. Now there's 50 drones in there, and it looks crazy. So that's really most likely now we don't. Now the scary part is we don't know what they were looking for yet.
Yeah.
And they were probably looking for a radioactive source. It might have been perfectly innocent. What happened, like at Alcoa before here in town, was we get a lot of our aluminum from Russia, and they would just put their waste in the aluminum and mix it up.
A little surprise. Surprise.
Well, it wasn't even on purpose. It was just how they disposed of their waste.
Oh, yeah.
They didn't think nothing of it. And then, back in the day, we didn't really have respect for, radiation and stuff. And they would just mix it in aluminum. And
you think that's why the cancer is so crazy?
Yeah, a lot of it, yeah. I bought a Geiger counter a while back and just randomly go places with it. And I found a few hot rocks here and there. not overly hot,
That would be fun, just going around with a Geiger
go on Amazon, buy your own Geiger counter. Like
how much
$20.
is $20? Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy.
And you'd be surprised what's radioactive. Like a banana has a good radioactive source because of potassium in it. And, you got a few sources.
There's a lot. There's good radiation and bad radiation, right?
Yeah.
Well,
there's a threshold, basically.
Yeah, then you cross like something that's too radioactive, then it's bad. Yeah. But like almost all of our electric stuff, right?
It's a different type of radiation. Yeah. Radiation is like, autism. It's a spectrum.
Yeah.
No, it's bigger. It's a huge spectrum, though. There's nice charts. You can look up the electromagnetic spectrum. I got a chart at the house. A lot of high school science have a big chart.
Yeah.
Gamma radiation, all that's on a real high frequency level. Our radio communications are really tiny band. And then you got all this other, low. It's like your phone puts out milliwatts.
Right.
If your phone put out 1,000 watts would be dangerous.
Yeah.
It really would be.
Because there was somebody was telling me if you sleep at night with the phone close to you, is that really doing anything?
It's probably not. It's probably a cumulative effect.
Oh yeah, like every day. Like I have two phones. I have like a business phone and another phone.
Yeah.
And they're like 2 foot from my head every night. And I'm probably like cooking my brain.
No, 2 feet's fine because
it would have to be even closer.
Yeah, it'd have to be even closer. Wow. Yeah, because it's just milliwatts.
Some people. I heard somebody was talking about possibly all these Bluetooth earbuds may not be good for us.
Yeah, probably not long term. Like honestly, and really,
I'm big on I have earphones in all the time because as I'm doing shit, I'm listening to audiobooks and podcasts.
It'll be our future smoking. My parents,
they put buds in their ears.
Yeah, I don't do it necessarily, but I wouldn't necessarily say not do it. It's kind of like smoking. Like literally, you could smoke a cigarette or two a week. Wouldn't be no big deal.
Yeah, it's just like who has the mental fortitude to smoke 2 cigarettes?
Exactly, but everybody does it. It's a constant thing. Like it's cumulative effect. And there's a lot of things in life like that.
Yeah,
like
moderation would save you, but it's incredibly hard. Like caffeine in moderation, they're saying like caffeine is like a wonder drug. Like, but in moderate. But it's like now I drink a soda every day. It's like now you're kind of going the other. Like even nicotine. Like nicotine, they're saying is like a neurotropic and all this. Yeah.
Marijuana, same way.
Yeah. But it's just like.
They've got way too serious with marijuana. Stuff looks like,
Look, I ain't smoked in a long time. It's because the shit they got now is not the shit that we used to mess around with.
Fun of dirt weed, but dirt weed is fine.
Dude, if I was going to smoke weed again, which I don't it just don't jive with me. I would say I would want like the old weed. Give me the old weed that makes me feel a little goofy. Like, I don't want to be I want to study about space. I don't want to be in space.
You don't want to hold on to the grass because you're going to fall off the earth.
My last experience was absolutely terrible. It's been years and years and years, and it's just like, dude, no, thank you.
Yeah,
and it's just like it was just too strong.
I was surprised here a while back going through Oklahoma. Like I was like, man, these grow houses have gotten big, and I noticed it. I was like, man, this. But what? I was like. I just got to thinking like, I don't think Oklahoma can buy that much weed. And sure enough, the other day it turned out they were exporting weed out of Oklahoma and they got busted. Yeah. The ATF came in. Yeah. And they said, you had a permit to grow 90 plants, but they were growing like 9,000.
Oh, dude, there's, I was watching this guy, Tommy G's on YouTube, and he like infiltrates all these different deals. And apparently there's, it's in Oklahoma also. And it's also, I want to say California somewhere. Where there's Chinese people that are taking over these deals, like diverting water sources and stuff, and just having like these whole off the grid weed grow deals. It's crazy.
I was just taking pretty pictures on top of a mountain. I would see these little lights out there in the distance. I was like, I wonder what that is. So I'd look it up on a map, and that's why it was just a giant weed. And one of them literally did get busted the other day, and that's what it is. Well, they just need to legalize it and let people know like alcohol and, tobacco, to, calm down. Don't do it all the time, moderation. But it's one of those things. A lot of people, you just can't moderate it.
Yeah. And then there was like all the campaigns that happened back in the day. There's still a lot of people that still think that they're still on like the drugs melt your brain or what was that drugs?
She sunk into the chair.
Sunk into the chair. Like
that'll be a Mandela effect in a few years. They'll say they never that ad.
They said they didn't do it.
Yeah, that ad was never there. What are you talking about?
There's like some people that think like which I don't even think I should say this on there. Like the H word in Germany, they say that didn't happen.
Oh,
cause that's a hot word right now, so I don't even want to say it on YouTube. Yeah. But like, you could do like a camp, imagine like MK Ultra type deal where they like really try to eliminate that.
A lot of stuff like the moon landing, the Mandela effect, the H word, like you said, a lot of it comes and COVID, a lot of it comes down to I didn't see it, so it doesn't exist. People don't believe it because they didn't see it. And I understand that it's out of your like cancer. like I know very few people have died of cancer. So to me, hey, it doesn't. No, I know it's real. I know it's real because I know people that were affected by it. And
it's crazy. Yeah,
a lot of times it's hard to believe when you don't witness. And that was long enough ago. The H word that.
Yeah, that's about the time they could start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 9/11's another one.
Yeah.
Dude, there's kids right now. There's people old enough to drink that weren't alive during 9/11.
That's crazy, yeah.
And we talk about just things being weird and coincidences. One of my first, like early on, broke as a joke. Me and a friend said, hey, let's drive to New York this weekend. It was freaking, we had like $250 between the two of us, and we was going to split gas and live homeless basically along the way. Yeah. Like literally just chill, just eat cheap. We brought food, just picnic along the way, and we was going to New York to walk around. It was Labor Day 2001.
Oh my gosh.
The week before 9/11.
And you had left right before, and you had left before it happened?
We went the weekend before, not the two, it happened on a Tuesday, not that weekend, but the weekend before. We spent like a few days just living on the streets.
Wow.
Like I ain't joking. I had some friends online. So we stayed at some people's house, hung out. We had a good time. We hung out on the subway, met people here and there. And I was really lucky because I got to experience the vibe of the city, the pre-9/11 vibe.
Oh, yeah, because it probably never was the same.
Everything was kind of open, like you could go here and there. There wasn't a lot of security. Buildings had security, of course, the guy, but there was a lot of things that were open, like, you could go places and do things, and people were really friendly. Like, I mean, if it's like most cities, if you stay away from certain areas, or even if you do go into those bad areas, if you don't come in like you own the place, and you're respectful, everybody's really cool, But that one that also, said there's kids, people are making 9/11 jokes now,
Yeah.
It's cause it's far enough away.
Guilty. Podcasts and comedy podcasts, and you're just like, oh, it's been long enough. And like, maybe not.
It's kind of rough,
It is rough, sorry.
And that I can get the conspiracies behind that whole thing too. But like we were talking about the simulation, the simulation and 9/11 did happen. The H word did happen.
Yeah.
But, even if it was a conspiracy, and whatever the motive was for the conspiracy,
it still happened. Yeah, that is true.
And it's like if you're a simulation, and we're living in a simulation, you're still experiencing it.
Yeah, because it's that good. Like if it is that, and that's the thing about like if this is a simulation, it has tricked the shit out of us. Yeah, and so you might as well just play it out, right?
Just play it out, enjoy it, be nice, be kind to
level
others.
Up, get some armor, do the normal open world game thing.
Yeah, and life really is like a game, man. And
go do some side missions.
And just because you're a billionaire don't mean you're winning. I mean, like you was talking about Elon. Have you seen his fall off the past few years? He's not looking like he was.
Yeah, he seems he's a little wild.
2018 Elon was a totally different guy. It's almost like I wouldn't doubt there's probably a conspiracy soon. They might have swapped him out.
Yeah. Oh, there's no telling. But we don't really even know what that type of money and power will do to a human anyway. Like that could 100% just be what happens.
And he's not the richest person in the world.
No. The people in the Saudis, we don't even know how much money they have. That's what I was hearing the other day.
Yeah, it's trillions. Yeah,
it's crazy.
And it's not even like necessarily on paper because they own land. Like Saudi Arabia is literally their name. Like it'd be like land of Teel. That's literally what Saudi Arabia means, is land of the Saudis.
Right, and they have like the princes. And they have so much money. It's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if, Texas was called, like I said, land of Teel. Yeah, you couldn't.
I mean, we could do it. I mean, it would just if everybody agreed, You
couldn't. Well, it'll be the land of Rogan first. But you can't quantify that kind of money,
Yeah, they have so much that we can't even. Yep. That's crazy. And then they probably laugh at billionaires, which is crazy. Like Elon, they're probably like,
oh yeah, it's cute. Yeah, he is kind of a puppet. He really genuinely is.
But the thing about it is that, like they're like you have like Dubai and shit that's like really cool. But like, are they building rockets? Like, are they going?
They don't need to.
All their money is just like sports cars, buildings, and like innovative stuff here.
They let us do all the hard work, and then and then they just kind of enjoy it. I mean,
do you think they'll be taking people to space soon? Like on trips,
mostly like cruises.
Yeah, it'd be like a space cruise. I could see
a space cruise easy.
Oh yeah,
space.
And do you think that there will still be people that once they go up in that ship, still think like the Earth is flat or something?
Well, what's that? Disney has that simulator. What's it called? Spaceship Earth or something. You know. But that's what it does. It simulates you're in a spaceship and it makes you think you're really.
Yeah, but that's a simulator. They won't go for that. You know what I'm saying? Like, go up in there. There'll be, I guarantee there's somebody so down the rabbit hole so far that they could go up into space, look at a round ass Earth and be like, you know what?
You know,
I don't believe it.
Even if somebody believes space is fake, like, you know, like say when I go downtown and set up that telescope on the street, you know, and somebody looks at the moon, even if space is fake, that moon looks pretty awesome.
Yeah,
and you
that's
can look
like a hell
Jupiter.
of a simulation. Yeah, like, because things could be simulated. But like, you know, because there's people that think like the sun isn't as far as away and that the sun and the moon are local and that they go around like this, but that don't make no sense to me because of seasons and then like one thing that's got me and I cannot get a good answer for it is a lunar eclipse. Because you got the sun, the earth, the moon. We see our shadow on the moon. It's round. Like, what is that? Why do we see that? If the earth is flat, why is there a round shadow of us on the moon?
Well, maybe the flat sides, you know, blocking it.
No. It's not clicking.
Next Friday is the lunar eclipse. I didn't look up what time it was here.
That's cool. Are we going to be able to?
Yeah, I think it's really I forget what time it was.
Oh, it don't matter for me. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'll get up.
It might be middle of the night.
I'll do it. That's worth it. That's cool.
It's not as mind-blowing as a solar eclipse.
The solar eclipse was absolutely crazy. This would be a good time to talk about the Citizen Cate thing. But my personal experience, so I went to my wife's job. She works at Farmers, the big one. So I was across the street from, by St. Michael's and stuff.
Yeah.
And it happens. Everything goes dark. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. And you look across the road and Olive Garden and Outback Steakhouse lights come on. Their lights come on because they're like, oh, it's nighttime. And everything just I was like,
it gets quiet.
Everything got quiet. And it felt weird.
Yeah.
It had a weird feeling. Like I was like,
I shed a tear.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah. That's crazy. Like it really did feel like, because I don't know, do we get more of those?
They're pretty rare for your area. They happen like a couple times a year all over the earth.
Yeah,
but it's like there's one in Greenland here pretty soon.
Yeah,
but the lunar eclipse will basically, you know how you see the full moon real bright, you can barely look at it. It'll just look a little reddish.
Yeah,
it won't be because it's our penumbra. Basically, it's like you know how a shadow. And
then will we see us? Or is it our shadow that's covering?
It's our shadow covering the moon. The moon. You know how the solar eclipse is pretty dramatic and like over a few minutes? A lunar eclipse is really slow, like over several hours. You'll see a big, bright full moon and it'll just slowly turn kind of red. And it'll just turn kind of blood red eventually. Lunar eclipses are pretty common. Yeah, it's neat to see, but it's not as quite mind-blowing as a solar eclipse, but it is awesome to kind of...
I think it would have been absolutely insane to be like these humans from like way back... Like pre-telescope, pre-all that, you know, and then you're just chilling one day, and then like, oh, shit, the sun comes up. Yeah, you don't know. You're like, what the fuck is this?
You think the world's going to come to an end.
And there's probably like religions, like they worship, you know, and then they worship the sun, they worship the moon, like... It's crazy. Like that would be a true experience. Like us knowing there's going to be you know, somebody can tell me right now when the next one is and where I need to be. That's mind blowing, but like not as mind blowing as like being in the yard.
It's also bam. Well, what we was talking about the solar eclipse, you know, you just mentioned it real quick, that Citizen Cate program.
Yeah. Tell me about that.
They NASA set up it was NASA, the Southwest Research Institute, and I forget the other group, but they set up 34 telescopes from like South Texas to Maine, and they imaged the eclipse. And I was the local head of what they called Site 10. And we set up in Gillum, Arkansas, and they sent us a telescope, an infrared camera with a polarizer, and we imaged the eclipse.
Wow.
And I'll post a link to it. The photos, the photos look weird. It'll look kind of rainbow colored.
Yeah. We looked there before it started. That's so cool.
That rainbow color is not real color. It's the polarization of the light.
Okay, so that has to do with the lens, how it's seen.
It's how it was the angle of the light. Like, you know, the sun and the coronas coming off of it. You saw that during the eclipse. Mm-hmm. That corona's not just coming straight, it's coming towards you and away from you.
Yeah.
And what they were doing is they were studying the sun's lower and middle corona for several reasons. One, the sun is a big fusion reactor. And so we're trying to learn how fusion works. And they're the sun's corona affects our atmosphere, like the weather and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like our weather models take in a lot of, take in the jet stream, the surface temperature, the air temperature. Mm. But they're also trying to figure out how to add in, the solar weather. You see sunspots move. The sun you hear about regular, like a solar flare or something. They're trying to figure out how that affects those weather models. Wow. So we set up in Gillum, Arkansas, we had a, telescope set up. We imaged the eclipse for the 2.5 minutes or whatever, produced I don't remember. It was like 400 gigs of data in like 2 minutes.
Wow. Yeah. And it was so cool, though. That was just so crazy.
Yeah, the eclipse, it really did get silent. And if you listen close, you heard some airplanes. They had a WB-57 or WB-52 as a part of that project. Was they used a electronic surveillance jet from the world from Vietnam era, and they put that same camera on it that we had on the ground, and they flew it along the path of the eclipse. Oh, and then they had another one because it only has so much fuel. Then they flew another one. But the research paper and the documentary is coming out real soon, and the photos, the previews I saw are just absolutely mind blowing because you see we saw the eclipse kind of in 2 dimensions, where when you had those 34 observations, you kind of see it in a 3-dimensional fashion.
Wow.
That's kind of boring technical nonsense.
No, that's cool.
Yeah, but if
it's the stuff that we take for granted that's just happening out there, like we're just like, oh, the sun's out there, the moon's out there, it's just doing its thing.
I go look at the sun all the time safely. I have a solar telescope, one that you can look at in visual light, where you'll see the sunspots, and the sunspots move. Like every day you look, they'll look different. They'll be in a different spot. And then another telescope that's hydrogen alpha that filters out all the light, but hydrogen alpha, it's like what he's talking about, the electromagnetic spectrum. It's like a thin line, but you'll see little solar prominences or solar flares, and those change like by the minute.
Wow.
And you can, and they'll look real tiny, through the telescope, but that's like 3 or 4 Earths tall. Wow, that fire as big as, and just, I don't know why I even think about it. The one thing I learned during that project, that Citizen Cate project, was I didn't realize that the sun's atmosphere is hotter than the surface of the sun.
Sun's atmosphere is hotter than
the sun, the corona, the solar corona, like, those little strings you saw coming off?
Yeah.
Those are like 1,000,000 degrees.
So they're hotter than the actual
surface of the sun is like 50,000 degrees.
Yeah.
And that's kind of
all way too hot.
And a lot of it probably has something to do with magnetic induction.
Yeah.
Like you've taken a piece of metal, bent it back and forth, and it gets hot.
Right.
Well, the sun's putting off particles, and those particles are kind of moving around. The surface of the sun, like say 50,000 degrees, and the magnetic field's so strong that it's moving those particles, bending them around. It's like a magnetic induction kind of thing. Like I really do appreciate all the highlighting the people from town, because it really is fun to listen, and it makes our city look better. It really does, because there's a lot goes on here in town.
Yeah, I didn't realize it until I started doing this. I was like, oh, because I'll ask you at the end, I'll say, well, who do you think I should interview next? Yeah. And I've just been kind of following trails like that. I'm like, oh, I didn't know they did this or they did this. It's
like that little project we did, that little NASA project. That was people from here in Texarkana. It was myself, a guy named Ricky Donovan, and my wife Liz.
Yeah,
like that was, we were all, well, they're kind of from the area, but that was. We were chosen by NASA and the Southwest Research Institute to do this little project.
Yeah, that's
and there's
cool.
a lot of that little stuff here in town that people do. I mean, there's a lot of really talented, and we have a really interesting town. I kind of enjoy it being kind of on the low income level because it's accessible. Like our downtown area is still fun and accessible. It's still. I
got to spend some more time downtown. It's just I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. So it's like
if I have my telescope out there one time, just come around. We'll walk around.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit you up. I want to look in the telescope.
Like I would have done it tonight. Because it's like first quarter, but it's kind of cloudy. Like last night would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Downtown Live next week is going to be the lunar eclipse, but I'm probably not going to do it because, like I said, lunar eclipse don't necessarily look good. If I do it, I might do it for planetary viewing if it's clear, because we'll be able to see Jupiter.
Oh wow!
And Mars. We did Mars. You got you talk about eclipses.
Yeah.
Well, downtown like a month ago, you had the moon, and Mars went behind the moon.
Oh, Mars! So you lose sight of it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. The moon eclipsed Mars basically, and I took a video of it downtown, and you can see Mars and the polar ice caps just disappear behind the moon, and I took a video from downtown, with a giant telescope. I brought a big one.
That's crazy. It's like to go full circle with what we've been saying all day.
Yeah.
That's not fake.
No,
you're not looking in this.
You could fake it.
You could fake it, but like you are looking in this telescope. Like somebody's not hacking your telescope and giving you what you see.
That was so dramatic and such a big deal. Nobody talked about it. Like the moon, the Mars occulting, the moon occulting Mars. And it looked so beautiful doing it, but you didn't see anything about it, did you?
No, I didn't.
Stuff like that happens in the sky every night. Like every once in a while, I'll post on my Facebook real quick. Hey, go outside. Certain.
Do you have the video of Mars going behind there?
Oh, I got it on my phone.
Yeah, I want to see that. Then, yeah, that's crazy.
I'll just randomly say, hey, the Chinese space station's going. Tiangong 1. The Chinese have a little space station. They're not part of the International Space Station. And you'll see it pass, and people say, hey, that is? You can look at it through a telescope. Nice little small module with a couple solar panels popping. It's not as big as the ISS. The ISS is as big as a football field. Yeah. People don't realize how big that sucker is.
Yeah, that's like when they said those people are trapped up on the space station. It's like, dude, they're on the space station.
They got escape hatches, escape pods anytime they can, but they don't want to,
Yeah, somebody's gonna. I think SpaceX is going to get them or whatever. But when I first read that article, I'm like, oh no, they're trapped in space for a long. Yeah. Like no, they're on the space station. Like, but back to appreciate all the interesting people here in town. They really are. Dude, there's so many. A lady that's been real big, and this might make some of your listeners mad because she's really polarizing right now. There's a U.S. Congress lady called Jasmine Crockett. Yeah, I've heard of her.
She's from Texarkana. She went to Texas High. I was Facebook friends with her. I didn't know it was the same lady.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, what? I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that whole subject is completely polarized right now.
Exactly. And she's right in the middle of it. Yeah. She's giving them hell. And she has that Texarkana attitude. It really trips me out whenever I see her. She called Marjorie Taylor whatever she called her a bunch of names on the floor. I was like, that's like the most Texarkana thing.
I'm afraid on that front. I think it's just a big giant soap opera that we get the shit into the stick of.
You ought to ask her for a Zoom interview. Yeah, that'd be cool. I bet you she would do it.
Yeah,
I bet she would. Yeah, and it would bump you up to it would be, and you can take it from I don't know your politics, but you can take it from a neutral standpoint.
Yeah, I'm very in the middle.
Yeah,
I'm very in the middle.
I've ran as a libertarian before, and this next time I've thought about either I'm trying to pick Republican or Democrat. The problem with running as a Republican is the local Republican Party has their people locked in.
Oh yeah, that shit's like it would be very hard to
It'd be very hard to break in.
It's kind of like a system. It's all a system. Politics shit stresses me out so bad, but I don't know. Like I think on the upper levels and the stuff that we see, and even the stuff that can become so much of our lives, I think it's a soap opera. I think it's all a big play.
Yeah, and we all just need to learn to get along better.
Yeah, that's what has to happen. We have to learn how to get it because then there's a media war because people are receiving different media. It's the same, but in a way, it's no different than the flat Earth, round Earth stuff. It's people are finding what they feel are good sources and believing those sources. Yeah. And so with the internet, that's what we've bred. And there's people that'll say,
there's money in conspiracies. Yeah. Like if you come up with a good enough conspiracy, people will they'll subscribe to your whatever. Yeah. And like Fox News, if you're on the right hard enough, you'll watch Fox News and you'll watch their pharmaceutical ads. Same thing with MSNBC.
Yeah, CNN, all them. It's like, and then if you only listen to CNN, you get a whole different version. If you only watch Fox, you get a whole different version. People are hating each other right now and disliking each other from getting different media. I mean, it's almost that simple, but it's very complicated.
And if you sit down and have a conversation with a lot of people are really in the same.
Everybody wants the same shit, most people.
Yeah, they want their family to be happy. They don't want to starve to death. They want their electricity to be on.
It's like it isn't rocket science like what humans want, but we're in the most complex game. Like even just the United States itself, even this deal is it's almost like this big experiment.
We're super young too.
Yeah, we're not as old as these other people.
Well, it's a super young country.
It's like Chinese is 4,000 year old dynasties, and
the chances of us being around, the United States being around in a couple hundred years in the form it is now is pretty rare. Yeah,
we'll crash like Rome or all these other.
Deals.
I don't know.
We got to share our resources. I know it really sucks. That brings up the whole communism, socialism, but we can't have a few people holding on to everything. I can't. I see people starving and hungry, and it hurts me. You know.
Yeah, because we have 100 billionaires.
Yeah,
that's crazy. But then at the same time, I do kind of sort of understand the other side of it, where it's like if you go hard, you should be rewarded for going hard, like because somebody else may not go hard.
And they might not.
Yeah. So like, it's all these that like. Yeah. It's like gray area things. Like it seems like everything is gray, right? Almost every issue turns out to be gray the more you get into it. And so if you form two sides that are opposed and are looking at it like it's black and white, when most things have some middle ground.
More parties for a lot of reasons. And some countries have several parties. Like the Libertarian was our best hope for a while, and it kind of blew up. It went full blown, weirdness.
Yeah.
And Ross Perot, that was one of them, because he had his Reform Party was Ross Perot, and he's a Texarkana.
He's from Texas.
Dude, we got so many, like I was thinking, yesterday, like I was thinking how many billionaires we have here in Texarkana. Like just because you're from Texarkana doesn't stop you from doing anything. Yeah, it really doesn't.
It could be a good stepping stone too.
It's up to you now. We all have circumstances.
Ooh, almost had a battery. Well, that's I definitely appreciate you coming, man. I had a great time. I'm going to have you back for sure. Yeah. And because there's a million other things I want to talk to you about. And
on my social media, it's One Big Orange Computer on mostly everything, like Twitter.
One Big Orange Computer.
All spelled out.
Cool. Yeah.
And Timothy Eason online and add Red River Astronomy Club. And if I'm ever downtown with the telescope, anybody's welcome to join. Yeah. Like just all I do is just walk around with the telescope, drink a little bit, and we look at the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
cool.
It's
Hell yeah. Send me all your links and I'll put them in the description. Yeah. And if you miss some, comment them. But like I said, this has been fun. I had a great time, dude. This is cool as shit. For the listeners out there, like, share, subscribe, do all that cool stuff. Leave comments. That really helps. If you're listening to the Spotify or Apple podcast version, if you listen to the whole episode and rate it, that does tremendous for me. Like the more 5-star rating
on
Spotify or Apple Podcasts, the more they're going to show me to different people. That's going to help me make more content. I love y'all. Thank y'all for tapping in. Hope you learned something. Hope it made you think. And y'all be blessed. Have a good day. Appreciate it, man.
Yep, that's right.